Thank you for joining the Sharpest College Football Podcast, Island Times Week 3 Preview. I am BuckMetrics, joined as always with Robert Martin, and always on Island Time by our guy Duck. Gentlemen, we got a few games to get to today. Just a note, if this is your first time visiting Island Time, thank you so much. And as always, if you are regular, by definition, you are brilliant. Gentlemen, some good games coming up here. Robert and I went through some in just the typical Monday podcast, but got a handful of games to go through here. Looking forward to them. Just recapping last week. We didn't have Island Time last week. We've got our logistical issues ironed out. Duck, how did you do since we didn't get any picks from you last week? Do like your victory lap here, I guess.
Week 1 was really incredible. Week 2 was middling. I really just pushed money around. Overall, 64 and 30 on the season.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, just double. Yeah.
But week 2, I really just pushed money around. I think it ended up being about 18 and 17. I lost a unit, I think, is what it comes out to with the accounting. So, yeah, it was okay. I had a couple really bad stinker calls. I had a couple really brilliant calls. But we're looking forward to a bounce back in week 3.
Yeah, just for a review of the last episode that never happened, Duck and I were on different sides of North Texas and Western Michigan. Didn't know that until afterwards when I caught up with him, and he, as usual, was on the right side, especially in the early season. Once I get my bazooka with me, known as the dual models, then I might stand a chance against him. All right, let's get to some games here, guys. First one, Duke at Tulane. Tulane, and these lines could be a little stale, so please keep me honest, guys. Tulane giving 2.5 as the home team here. You know what, let me grab my laser pointer here. What is sticking out to me here is I've got a big difference in Apex here. Tulane's not really faced. Now, let's keep in mind also that these metrics include only, as the kids would say, FBS on FBS crime. So we don't have Duke's game versus Elon in here. But I've got a lower Apex here considerably for Tulane, facing what I think is pretty clearly a subpar, to be nice, a Northwestern team. At South Alabama, I think we're TBD on that. I'm not sure. Josh, actually, CFF guys, talked me into a little bit of a mercy on them in the Sun Belt preview. But I've got one data point here, an FBS data point for Duke, and that's Darian Mensah against what should be at least an average Illinois defense here. So that's encouraging. Duke really seemed to shoot itself in the foot last week. Passed the ball, they explosive here, didn't run too well. This is a problem. They gave up a boatload of my goodness. They had problems on the pass defense here. Don't know if that's going to be a problem with them for Tulane. I hate to do this because I've spent a lot of time talking up John Summerall in the preseason here, and he's still my guy, but just this, and it's only one data point, and maybe it's early, but geez, a lot of the data here points to Duke. I guess, first of all, Duck, and saying Duck and Duke is going to get me in trouble here. Is that 2.5 still current, or has that moved since? I see you looking at one of your 7 screens there, so.
Duke is the favorite by 2.
Wow. Okay. That. Boy.
That's not what my book says. I've got Duke plus 1.5 on Bet365.
So we're all over the place here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's switched then as of later on today then, because, yeah, Duke was a favorite earlier in the day.
Wow.
But it's essentially a pick 'em. Yeah, it's 1.5.
Yeah.
Either way. But, yeah, earlier today I did a show, and it was Duke was a 1-point favorite, 1.5.
Does Duke strike you as the play here, or am I just oversimplifying here based on a single data point? I think they did it.
Yeah, in my opinion, Duke's the play. In fact, I have a Duke ticket in pocket. I took them when they were on the money line. I got plus 120, but still like it at the current price. I think when you look at Duke, they really played toe-to-toe with Illinois, or dare I say outplayed them, except for the 5-0 turnover battle that they lost. Really gift-wrapped and bow-tied that game for the Illini. I think Tulane has really struggled this year when you look at what they've done on offensive output. They've been the benefactor of timely turnovers by their defense, but really struggled on first and second down. They've been in third down a ton. Through 2 games, 32 third down attempts. What are you doing on first and second down to put yourself in spots where you have to convert 32 attempts already in 2 games is unreal. Retzlaff is the team's leading rusher. They haven't had a lot of explosivity in the run game. And I think Duke is going to wear down this defense with their up-tempo, quick tempo offense. 500 yards a game and 8 yards a play is what they're doing. This becomes a game for Duke now. instead of, yeah, we'd really like to win that one, this is now, we have to win this game. This is almost a save your season spot for Duke. You don't want to start 1-2. And I think they really probably have a lot of piss and vinegar in there running through their body based on how they played last week. So I think Duke's the better team. I think they go in here and win this game on the road.
I do too, and I think, Robert, we and all three of us here, we all loved the Duke story last year. Robert, we just knew that the limiting factor was going to be Malik Murphy's kind of limitations as a passer. Is this as simple as like a lesser / stealth version of Mateer to Oklahoma without the offensive coordinator that comes in? Does it open up all kinds of doors?
Possibly. Diaz at Duke was not even that bad last year. He was actually pretty good. I remember being on him a couple times, let us down a couple times, but we won with him a couple more times than that. Tulane obviously had some problems last year. I think Retzlaff didn't. He basically just got to the school, a couple weeks ago, so they're still trying to figure out what to do here. Northwestern is just not good, right? My model does actually favor Duke here, so I think I'm very heavily debating throwing something on a Duke play here. Yeah, give me the Blue Devils here.
That reminds me, one thing I'm just going to make a note here real quick is there's been instances, and I'm just going to bug you guys after the pod. I think one of the preseason things I want to do next year is looking back at, we've had more instances of these guys, like I say, teams trying to defy the laws of gravity with these quarterbacks that miss spring and come on in. And I'm wondering, not that Retzlaff had an awesome apex, that's concerning. Northwestern and South Alabama are not the most awesome defenses around, and a 62 apex is a big step back. I don't know. How did Nico do? I'm joking.
Terribly.
Yeah. All right. So
couple things.
Please go ahead.
Just a couple things that I think also support the play. Tulane, the score looked really good against Northwestern, but they benefited from 3 short field touchdowns that were set up by turnovers. They've won the turnover advantage thus far 7-1. And the other concerning thing is Tulane is very heavily penalized. They've had 16 accepted penalties against them already this season for 142 yards. That undisciplined nature is going to cost them several times this year if that keeps up. So it could be this game where you're heavily penalized. You've really been fortuitous with the luck factor. There's an argument on if turnovers are predictable or not in teams. That's a conversation for another day, but they've been very fortunate up to this point. They very easily could have lost last weekend against South Alabama.
Interesting. Robert, are you going to say something else?
Yeah, I was going to say that Tulane had South Alabama. They should have won and covered the spread in that game, but they let South Alabama come right back into that game and had to escape there with the win. And that was not great. I lost a little bit of faith in Tulane that one.
Duck, one more question for you. Do you, and I should know this, but I don't dig in as much as you do in the off season. I only spend 2 months and you spend about 10, it seems like. Duke's OC, could he actually, I don't even know who it is off the top of my head, could he actually be pretty good and we just don't know it because he didn't really have the right guy quarterback last year?
Oh yeah, totally different scheme than what we're used to Duke running, and completely different than the Riley Leonard Duke and the Daniel Jones Duke. It should be humming and really look dynamic. It should look like a typical TCU air raid or a Baylor air raid type of principle. Yeah, they're going to go lightning fast. They're going to throw the ball downfield. It should be a little better than it looked last week.
Interesting. Yeah, that's good to know. And it's one of those things we haven't seen at Duke since Pete Cutcliffe was like a functional offense. After that, you had 2 really defensive guys you don't think of in terms of really offensive wizards, if you will. Okay, interesting. The next one, Colorado at Houston -4, a 4.5. I put this on there because when I saw this line, and maybe it's since moved, my first question was, is Houston better than I thought? And I'm scared to ask Duck because this is one place where he and I disagreed. And if you can frame your answer without including Rice, just because I was on the wrong side of that in week 1 as well. But is Houston taking a big step forward? They had a good defense last year. They had a good defensive performance against Rice, but I didn't see them being a field goal plus favorite here.
I think that there's some incremental improvement. I think they're very stout defensively in the front 7. I think the thing with Rice is that they run such a quirky offense that once you get a little film on them, it's going to be a little easier to defend than what you might suspect, just because it's so new. I knew about it because I watched some Davidson football last season, but most people won't have seen that. So you get a little film on Rice, and their offense really could struggle deep into the later stages of the season. But Houston is very stout defensively. I think Colorado's in major trouble here. We can get into that in a little bit here, but I think Colorado, their season could end up going pretty sideways on them quickly.
They just won. They apparently just found their quarterback. Are you not a fan of that?
You bring in Caden Salter from Liberty, and he's doing battle with the young guy, Julian Lewis, and you were decided between one of those two, and now you've introduced the third string, and it just seems like this team doesn't have a clue what they want to do at the quarterback position. And the old adage, if you got two quarterbacks on your team, you really don't have one. They're juggling three of them. And I will give Colorado credit that they have not abandoned the run game entirely like they did last season. Last season, they just had zero propensity to try to run the football. This year, they're actually running the football. They're just running it poorly. They're under 4 yards a carry. They don't have very much explosiveness. And I think their offensive line could get eaten alive here by Houston. My play would be at the current line in total. It's still 4.5. The total's ticked up. I'd go Colorado team total under 20.5. I don't think they're going to score a lot of points here. This is really going to be one where now they're on short rest. They're traveling for the first time this season. It could just look a little jerky for their offense.
You make an interesting point. There's one thing there's a lesson I learned in 2002 and then a corollary. In 2002, because I always bring it back to me and my school, USC. USC lost, I think I wasn't Polamalu, but one of the key defensive back got hurt. And that just killed us for the game at Kansas State. And we lost that, couldn't come back. We were fine the next week. And the thing that I learned is, okay, if you have a week to game plan around an injury, it's very different than when the injury happens, you're in triage mode for the rest of that game. The opposite of that is when you have the backup quarterback, and this is maybe even exponentially so, when the third string guy comes in and does well, yeah, they didn't have any idea what you're saying about Rice. Now there's something on him, and it's a very different dynamic once they know that he's going to start. So I think there's something to be said there. I think you just what you said kind of lines up with my point there.
Game to game, too, when you look at Colorado, they benefited from a very early turnover against Georgia Tech. They went up 7-0, and they didn't score another touchdown until the late stages of the fourth quarter. They just did not move the ball on Georgia Tech at all. And then you look at where they were at in their game against Delaware. Let's pull it up here real quick. It was not the sort of boat race that you think the final ended up being. I think it was a 3-point game at half. And they just couldn't bury the Blue Hens. It just looked so wonky. It was 17-7 at half is what it was. But it didn't look to me very cohesive. There was a lot of disjointed play. You got so many times where you come up with empty possessions. And they should have really laid the wood against Delaware, I thought. Delaware had 4 or 5 turnovers. Just was really jerky themselves, but I've not been extremely impressed with Colorado offensively this season. We can definitely see that they're missing some of their dudes that they had last year.
Yeah, who is it? Houston's quarterback now too. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Wiegand.
Is it? Oh, that's right. Okay, I remember that. So
yeah, Connor
that could be a problem. Boy, you've got some problems here. And Robert, I'll bring it to you on this. I'm seeing some problems here in that, okay, this is an obliging pass defense, Colorado. Defensive apex of 110 isn't the worst in the world, but when you normalize it for one of those games was against Delaware, and same thing on your defensive GGAB of 172, that's really a problem considering one of the teams was FCS last year. And you've got, now granted you're only playing Rice, but Houston did about as much as you would want from an offense here. This just doesn't seem like it's more than a one-score game in favor of Houston. I'd like to talk through it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So one thing is that apparently Dion has announced that Ryan Staub is going to be the quarterback. Don't remember much about him. I think Shador was injured in a game. The name sounds familiar. I think Shador was injured in like a game and he came in, and I don't remember him being particularly great. So I'm not the most happy. I wouldn't be like betting it for that. It's very weird, right? I saw this line come up on Sunday, and I immediately was like, this seems weird. Like, I would have thought this would have been the other way, Colorado minus 4.5. But the fact that the books are putting it with Houston, they know the Colorado money is coming. They know that. That's coming. So I think the play is here, Houston. I think Houston is the play. I think they're just a better team. My model has this closer, but I don't think I think the model has a lot of last season Caden Salter in it, because it still thinks Caden Salter's the starter. I might rerun it with Ryan Staub, but there's probably not even that many passes for Ryan Staub. Leave it. I think Houston is the play here. I do want to say one more thing about the Georgia Tech game for Colorado. I think Georgia Tech had 3 or 4 turnovers in that game, and I think had those not happened, I think that game wouldn't have been nearly as close as it looked. And I think you would have been talking about a 14, maybe even a 21-point win in that case. So they would have easily covered that spread and be having a very different conversation about Colorado right now. And I think the books look at that and they say, yeah, that's how this would have gone. This is where we are. Houston is not the best team, but I think they might be substantially better than Colorado this year. Colorado is in a rough spot. We knew this. The question is just how low is this going to get, right? Like, obviously, we didn't expect them to beat Georgia Tech. They didn't. We expected them to beat Delaware. They did, but it didn't look great. So let's see what Houston is. But yeah, I think I'd be taking Houston here, and I probably will. It's a standalone-ish Friday night game, so I'll probably take Houston.
Yeah. Duck, are you something else? You kind of have that look on your face, or are you just watching the line move as Robert moves it here?
Colorado's in major trouble the rest of the way this season. If you look down their schedule, they still have BYU, TCU, Iowa State, Utah, Arizona, who looks emergent, Arizona State, and K-State. Like, they may not win another game the rest of the season outside of when they host Wyoming. Colorado's in major trouble.
Yeah.
If you have a win total under ticket like I do, spend the money.
All right, before I get to the next one, there was a young lady when I was at USA. Don't want to embarrass her or embarrass myself, since a couple of my fellow Trojans, Ribeye Ray and Johnny Tip, listened to this. Her first name started with a J, and J was not my type, but J was just a smoke show. Super, super hot, and I couldn't get my mind off of J. And I bring that up because I know that's how this is going to go with North Texas this season. North Texas given 5.5. They already look like crap up in Kalamazoo. And you know what? They're probably going to do it to me again, but I still love all the pieces. We were all on the North Texas train. I think it's that simple. Washington State, I'll put it this way. I'm going to get emotional here. I feel more comfortable that I have an anchor, I guess, in terms of what this Idaho game is. Now, maybe it's a rivalry game, so maybe I shouldn't read into it that much, but Idaho's an FCS team. I know they're right across the river. I have no idea what to read into San Diego State. San Diego State is a blank canvas as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not really... I'm more convinced with the Week 1 struggles with a capital S against Idaho than cleaning up against San Diego State. Now they go on the road. I've made my case already for North Texas in the previews and in my mind last week when I was putting together the Island Time preview. I think North Texas has the goods on both sides of the ball. Defense didn't look that great last week against Western Michigan, but maybe we just say, hey, Lance Taylor finally has it working in year 3. I don't know. I'll put it to you in this way, Duck. Talk me off of North Texas.
I can't, because I'm on North Texas. It's one of my favorite plays of the week, one of my bigger plays of the week. You look at the defense for North Texas, and there was wind in that game. The game total went over only because of overtime. But North Texas got pinned down around their goal line, and they did struggle to get out of it. Western Michigan's defense has very much overachieved compared to expectations. They've looked formidable now 2 weeks in a row, but North Texas got pinned down around their goal line a couple different times, and they couldn't get out of it, and then they had some short punts due to the wind. So Western Michigan benefited from touchdown drives of 61 yards, 63 yards, 30-yard field goal drive, and 41-yard touchdown drive. So they were short field touchdowns. They didn't matriculate the ball down and go the length of the field on North Texas at all. And North Texas battled back and won the game. There's so many things to like about North Texas here. This is going to be the very first opponent that has a competent pass attack that can challenge the Wazoo secondary. None of the other teams have been able to do that. When you look at the final score, it looked bad. Washington State against San Diego State, but San Diego State scored first. Early in the first half, they had blocked a punt, and they recovered the punt on the 5-yard line. It was negated by a phantom offsides, totally changed the momentum. San Diego State could have gone up and been up at the half. Then they take a safety, they get a cheap touchdown before half. All of a sudden, the wheels fall off. There was about a 5-minute stretch of gameplay where Wazoo scored 19 points. They didn't really blow the doors off. San Diego State just played poorly for 5 minutes. When I look at this here, North Texas, 6.5 yards per play offensively, 8.5 yards per pass. Mestamaker is just locked in on what he wants to do with it, and they've got 3 solid receivers that are going to be able to expose this Washington State secondary. When I look at their pass explosiveness, they are locked in. You look at the success rate when you're calling passing plays, how many of those plays are successfully deemed compared to non-successfully deemed. North Texas ranks very highly. Washington State defensively ranks very poorly. This is going to be one where Wazoo's defense, I think, will have their heads spinning in pass coverage the entire game. I lean into what I researched in the summer, which is North Texas's defense is significantly improved. I trust Skylar Cassidy and crew to draw it up on the whiteboard, and I think they'll be able to shut down Washington State offensively. I don't know that this game will be particularly close. This is the first of 4 road trips for Wazoo east of the Mountain Time Zone. They don't do that a lot. And so I plan to fade Wazoo a lot this year in those spots. This is the very first one. I took the mean green. It's one of my absolute favorite plays of the week.
You are, and I asked you to talk me off of it, and you didn't, so thank you. I'll frame it a different way. You are seriously unconcerned by just the volume of points? I know you said that they didn't have the longest fields, but the volume of points that Western Michigan got?
No,
I'm looking for reassurance as much as anything, not to put you on the witness stand here.
North Texas shut down the run game. They only averaged 3.8 yards per run. They ran the ball 57 times, so they didn't really shut it down. But 3.8 yards per carry on the ground, only 87 passing yards surrendered. North Texas outgained them by 103 yards. I look at the way that the game played out in addition to just the final score result and how many points they surrendered, and their defense was put in some situations that were really tough. When you're giving up 41-yard scoring drives 3 times in the first half, it just gets tricky, and they did well to battle back, I thought. But yeah, I walked away from that game more impressed probably with Western Michigan's defense. Now 2 data points. They played very well against Michigan State, and they played very well at home in this one. So I kind of walked away more impressed with that. But I'm so impressed with North Texas that I'm a believer in this bunch. South Florida's getting all the love in the American right now for who they've defeated, but I took a 17-1 North Texas ticket just this morning to win the conference. I think they're that good.
There you go. Doubling down. I love it. The real mean green, not just the green.
The real mean green.
And I think probably you're a little more, how do I say this? You can be a little more, how do I say, philosophical. You have a different frame of reference because when I asked you about this one, you liked Western Michigan to cover, and I was really confident in the mean green. Robert, are you staying steady on the mean green just like us two as well?
I think so. I'm not particularly impressed with Washington State or Oregon State, the kind of leftovers of the Pac-12. They get friends next year, but not right now. They're not particularly great right now. I think that game was actually the North Texas Western Michigan game. I'm just trying to see if I can find it. Yeah, I have North Texas pretty heavily favored by about 1.5, close to 2 scores in my early model. I was very impressed with North Texas. They actually were down to Western Michigan and they came back. That's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. Yeah, should they have won? Yeah, should they have covered the spread? Yeah, but at the same point in time, they fought back. And the thing is, I think that Oregon State and Washington State are just really bad. And I think that if you, I think it's just better to just have them just put them in here. And I think they're in really deep trouble. I think once they start getting an actual Pac-12, maybe they can do this. But again, both of them have lost a lot of pieces. Both of them have lost coaches. I think I'm going to keep fading them. So, yeah, I'm going to take North Texas here.
Yeah, I think, too, that took me down this path, too. When it comes to Washington State, this was my argument against Jacksonville State as well. A program that's in the orphaned 2, if we call it that, or whatever we want to call it. I just don't think a program like Washington State, especially in this year, or this time between conferences, if you will, I don't think you can lose a quarterback like Mateer. I don't think you can lose an OC like Arbuckle and not take a ginormous step back.
Yeah.
And you've got North Texas, who's in year 3 of what is clearly a functional plus offense, and now the defense is either on its way or going to be on its way, but definitely it's going to be improved. I think that's just too much. Yeah, I think it's a 2-score game here as well. So we all agree. All right.
I will say this, too, and this is just one to file away for the back pocket later. When Jimmy Rogers came in from South Dakota State, they have 26 former FCS players sprinkled within their two deep. This team is going to wear down, and depth is going to become an issue playing the rigors of an FBS schedule. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, too, after they beat Idaho, they re-upped the regular season win offering, and Washington State's regular season win was 5.5. It was re-upped and offered at 4.5, heavily juiced under. The books know this team's not very good.
Interesting. Yeah, that's good data. Question about that too. Among those 50 or whatever, and it's interesting. I like that dynamic too when the coach brings a lot. Although if it's from the FCS, that could really burn you. But not among those was Mr. Gronowski, who went to Iowa. Do you think that was just a matter of he got a big check that he wouldn't be able to get at Washington State, or do you think that the coach just thought they might have something better in Pullman, which I just say it out loud and it seems kind of stupid to think, right?
I think after the coaching staff left, a lot of players entered the portal, and he wanted the chance to play in the Big Ten instead of playing at Wazoo. I think he could have gone if he wanted to. Same thing with Griffin Wilde, the receiver who went to Northwestern. I happen to know the Wilde family personally because I lived in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where he's from for many years, and he had meetings scheduled with North Carolina, Florida State. There was a ton of teams that wanted him, and he chose to go to Northwestern. But same thing with Gronowski. Gronowski could have gone about anywhere. I don't know why he would have chose to go to Iowa, but that's what he did.
Yeah, noted quarterback factory, Iowa, as we say. All right, next, Liberty -6 at Bowling Green. I don't know what's more concerning, like the fact that this number is actually shrinking. I'll be quick on this one because I don't want to spoil. I've got a question about Liberty at the end about the run defense, but I'm more concerned right now about, am I wrong on Bowling Green? I think we did a masterful job of chopping them up on the witness stand in the MAC preview about there's really no reason to believe in this. And I think they were like, look, they didn't embarrass themselves against Cincinnati. I think that's fair to say. I just can't imagine that they fixed anything. But geez, I see that they did embarrass themselves against a Big 12 team. It was on the road. And now Liberty is giving 6. I've got two conflicting factors here, and I don't know what to do. Clearly, Liberty's trajectory is bad. I'm still convinced that Bowling Green's going to go. It's gonna go down the escalator before it goes up. And is the market just missing? I guess I'll ask you this, Duck, to start on this one. Is the market just missing just how much regression Bowling Green has ahead of it first?
I think the market is overreacting to how bad Liberty has looked 2 weeks in a row. It has been so disjointed and so awful offensively. It's been hard to watch the games. They looked so terrible for 3 quarters against Maine, and then they turn it on the last 3 drives, and you think, okay, they're ready to rock and roll. They're going to pound Jacksonville State. They're going to go down there and get revenge for last season. No, you knew in 3 drives that they were absolute toast, and they just have no ability to scheme it up offensively. Vasco goes long stretches where he looks lost. He can't complete passes with any regularity. The run defense at times has just been gashed. It's just so bad to see from a team that I thought would have been coached and they would have strategized so much differently this year, knowing what they blew last year. But I don't think Liberty's even going to contend to win the conference. They still could rebound, but they look terrible. Bowling Green, I still think, is bad. They scored 1 offensive touchdown against Lafayette. They kicked a bunch of field goals, and they had a kickoff return for a touchdown to open the season for the 2nd year in a row. But they scored 1 offensive touchdown against Lafayette. They were down 21-0 against Cincinnati. I personally bet Cincinnati minus 19.5. 3 times in the second half, Cincinnati was outside the number, and they allowed Drew Pine to complete 15 straight passes in the second half and gave up the back door twice. So just very maddening for me. Now, I still think Bowling Green is going to go under the win total, and I still think that they're going to struggle here. They have to play Louisville yet, and then Ohio, Toledo, and an emerging Central Michigan right away, and they still have to play Buffalo, and Buffalo, I think, is the best team in the MAC. So a lot of games that they'll lose. I think they're going to have to win their next 3, or excuse me, they're going to have to win their last 3 just to get to that 6-win plateau. So still bad times ahead for Bowling Green, but I'm telling you right now, they can absolutely win this game on the field. I want no part of this game. I wouldn't bet either of your money with this game, but I would take Bowling Green plus 6.5. That's the only way I would play this.
Okay. Yeah. Geez. Robert, let me ask you this. When I just looked at the first thing that stuck out at me is this is one of the lines that absolutely stinks out loud. No?
Yeah, there is something about this that is a bit off. I'm just looking at the books now. I'm seeing 6.5 as well. It's funny that Liberty was 6.5 point favorites last week and lost by 10. Another 6.5 point favorites this week as well. We'll see what happens. I. It's really hard to say whether or not the thing is that Jacksonville State is just good or Liberty is just that bad. One kind of positive for Jacksonville State is that they actually kept it close to UCF now. Again, this podcast, we're not really we don't usually do a lot of positive things about Scott Frost. So that's something we'll say right off the bat. This is a bit of a weird area for me, maybe praising Scott Frost here, but they did crush an FCS team. Again, this is not to say that like UCF is good. It's they're competitive with a bottom tier Conference USA team. Like this is not. I'm not like they're going to win the Big 12, but maybe UCF isn't. Maybe they were actually competitive against UCF because they're not that bad, and they beat Liberty because they're actually maybe this. If Liberty wins this game, I think maybe we need to reevaluate how good Jacksonville State is. But if Bowling Green keeps this competitive, then yeah, okay, it's Liberty that's the problem here. And I don't know. You're betting on Drew Pine. Like Drew Pine is only getting 6.5 at home to Liberty. It's a very weird situation here. But like Bowling Green, one thing we didn't talk about them in the Conference USA the MAC preview, they've got a cat. So we'll see. But maybe that's their secret weapon. It's the cat. So I think if you're betting something, you probably got to bet Bowling Green here. As much as I hate it, I don't think I am going to. I'm not going to touch it, but I think you'd have to go Bowling Green. But I'm not touching it. So I just want to see what happens here.
Whatever happens here, I'm going to be absolutely fading Liberty the next 2 weeks. I don't care what the number is. James Madison and Old Dominion will destroy this team. I hate to say it.
Yeah. To that regard, you probably almost hope for Liberty to run away win here. The thing, though, that just bugs the heck out of me, I guess two things. When there's a stink line, it's usually because the dog is sneakily good, and I don't even see sneaky competence here for Bowling Green. And I talked earlier about fighting the rules of physics with quarterbacks that come in after spring ball. Eddie George came in, I think, about a week before spring ball. It's like this team had spring practice. I don't know. I threw this on here because I was just flummoxed. It would almost be like a crossword puzzle where I needed some friends' help with the tough ones here. So, yeah, none of us really have a good feel at all on this one, it sounds like.
If you're interested in it at all, again, we're really grasping at straws here, but I could play under 51.5. Again, both these teams are run heavy. Eddie George really wants to run the ball. They run a lot of big body personnel, a lot of 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends, and 13 personnel, which is 3 tight ends. And so I could see run focus on each side. This game now becomes critically important for both teams in just totality of their season. I could see an under where you get just run heavy, some field position battle. Both these teams probably could force the other into field goal attempts, but I don't really want to.
Yeah. I think this is probably going to be on ESPN Plus, too. It's got to be, right? This isn't going to be on any kind of TV.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. All right. This line has moved since, and App State is now giving 3 at Southern Miss, somewhat defending Sun Belt champs, Southern Miss. I'm not getting this. And again, I'm not the most objective guy, as I really like Southern Miss this season. The metrics here are not kind to Southern Miss, but that's going to happen when you've played a surprisingly good, maybe, Mississippi State defense. I don't think that let me put it this way. I don't think Southern Miss really fails in comparison in what they did against Mississippi State to what Arizona State did. They just gave them more of a game in the first half than the second half. App State ran it up against Charlotte. Great. Charlotte's in a complete rebuild. Clearly based on these metrics here, I'm relying a lot more on my preseason than in-season stuff here. Now that this is up to App State given a field goal, I don't know if this is bettable, but this is at least definitely worth talking about here. I think Southern Miss is the play here if you're getting a field goal. What do you think, Duck?
I agree. I think Southern Miss is a team that really had to learn their personnel and get a lot of the pieces on offense to play together. We saw them against Mississippi State They were competitive, and that Mississippi State loss has aged pretty well. My goodness, going in there and beating the Sun Devils at home, no one thought you really could. I thought they played pretty well against Jackson State. I had bet on Southern Miss last week against Jackson State. They really looked cohesive offensively. They were able to pin down a pretty decent FCS offense for some time. And App State, to me, I just think still... I don't know. Are we really giving them credit for defeating Lindenwood 20-13 and defeating Charlotte, who can't complete a forward pass?
I forgot about that. Yeah,
this
Lindenwood
defense
game, it was a touchdown.
Yeah, and last year this App State defense completely bottomed out. If you remember, they were giving up 400 and 500 yards every single game. Everyone was scoring on them. They couldn't stop anything. And I just don't think that they got any better. So I think we'll see them get exposed a bit here defensively against Braylon Braxton and that dual threat sort of mentality that he has. He can create plays with his legs. I still think we haven't seen Southern Miss play their best football yet, and I don't think we've seen App State defensively play their worst. I think those things are on a collision course here. I like Southern Miss to win the game, no points needed.
Yeah, I'll say this. Proven quarterback in the Sun Belt, Braylon Braxton, too. This isn't like some guy they brought in there hoping for to turn out well. Robert, I think you were just as bullish as I was on Southern Miss in the preview as well. Is that carrying over to this game?
It is. I was bullish on Southern Miss, and then they lost to Mississippi State handily. And then I was, okay, maybe not. But Mississippi State did upset Arizona State. They were competitive in that game. They were like, whether or not you want to say they should have won that game because it was a bit of a fluke that they won that game, they were definitely competitive in that game. That was a very competitive game. So to say like they were a very good team, no, I think App State, they crushed Charlotte, and I think originally that line I think was like 8, maybe that was a bit deceptive, and we're like, okay, maybe either App State is good or Charlotte is bad. But then Charlotte got beat down by that North Carolina team, and not even in a very convincing way, which I think both of them are maybe really bad. App State might not be good. They might just be bad. And the teams they beat, an FCS team by 7, and like maybe beating Charlotte 34-11, not the most convincing win that we've ever seen. Southern Miss, they lost to Mississippi State, but that loss is looking a bit better now. Every day that loss looks a little better. And they beat Jackson State pretty convincingly by 18. It's not nothing. So I'm seeing 2.5 on FanDuel. Bet365 is having a problem for me right now. But if it's 3.5 somewhere, I definitely take that. I think that's some good value there.
Let's look at what
Please.
Braxton did last year to App State. Shredded them. 52 points surrendered by App State against this quarterback. And 6.1 yards per carry on the ground. And Braxton ran for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I'm going to bet on that.
Okay, yeah.
Shredded him with his legs. Just destroyed this team.
To that point about the App State defense, these numbers are too good to be true, obviously, as you said, Duck. And let me just ask both you guys. I don't know how to say his first name. I don't want to say his last name, so we'll just say the new head coach at App State. Offensive coordinator. I'm having a hard time to think that a defense that was that bad last year had such a quick turnaround under an offensive-minded guy. It just doesn't... the narrative doesn't make sense. It's got to be a matter of strength of opponent. There's no way... Let me just use an extreme version. Okay, like we saw. Did Lincoln Riley fix USC's defense in year 1? I can answer that no. But just it's... you've got an offensive guy. There's no way those numbers are real on the App State side because they've got good metrics here, obviously.
I think it's also important to kind of try to adjust for a strength of opponent. And Charlotte, who is predicted to potentially be the absolute worst team in the American Conference, and Lindenwood, who's a bad OVC bottom feeder. It's just...
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's good data.
I'm not willing to crown these guys yet with extreme defensive improvement. I'm not willing to do it yet.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I have no idea on this next one because this number, when it opened, struck me as odd, and now it's actually gone down. Memphis is now giving, according to certain unlicensed books, down to 3.5 at Troy. I guess my first question, since Duck, you're going to know this better than we mortals, Robert and I, Is Brendan Lewis hurt? What's going on with this number?
No, I haven't seen any injury news that would really perpetuate the move. I just think I think this game, these two schools are relatively close together, and there's some sort of rivalry, but it's one of those rivalries where it's a rivalry to one school but not the other. This game means a lot more, I think, to Troy than it does to Memphis. You look at last year's game, and Memphis blew them out, but the game was really pretty close and competitive when Goose was in there at quarterback for Troy. And then he got hurt in this game, and Memphis kind of blew it open in the second half, but I don't know. Something tells me Troy might be the right side here. I think that they can go in there and compete. If you just look at what Troy did to Clemson on the road last week, completely shutting down the run game, plugging holes against that offensive line. Cade Klubnik couldn't complete anything, no explosivity against their defense. Troy looks put together defensively. They've got a lot of dudes at all three levels of the defense that can really play. And Seth Hennigan was such a threat at quarterback because he was laser accurate. He could make plays with his legs. And maybe there's a little bit of offensive regression that is coming for Memphis. They look good against Georgia State, but they're not playing Georgia State this week. I don't know, man. This is going to be such a different challenge for Memphis than what Georgia State and UT Chattanooga were able to present. Wouldn't surprise me at all based on what I've seen the first couple weeks out of Troy defensively if they shut this Memphis offense down.
Wow. I guess I'm not putting as much stock into what Troy did against Clemson. Now, it was on the road, and it happened. This is just a tough one for me, Robert, because I was pretty bearish on Memphis in the American preview, too. And then Lewis came out and stunk against Chattanooga. Now, obviously, he did a lot better against Georgia State, but Georgia State clearly has had some problems on defense for 5 years. So I've got two teams that I want to bet against here, and but my gut tells me Memphis is better. I don't get now this number is fallen by 3 to 3.5. Do you make anything of this?
I think that's a lot of people saying, "Hey, Troy almost beat Clemson. Why are they 6.5-point underdogs to Memphis at home?" That's what I think it's got to be. I think didn't Troy also almost lose to Nicholls State for a while? They needed a lot. Yeah. So
they trailed after 53 minutes.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are chalking up Troy almost beating Clemson to Troy. I think you're thinking of it the wrong way. I think you need to chalk up Troy almost beating Clemson to Clemson, not to Troy. And I think that's the difference. I've bet Memphis already at 6.5. My model likes it at 6.5 even. 3.5, I think, is crazy. I don't think Troy is a particularly good team. I don't think Memphis is a particularly good team either, but I think they're better than Troy. I don't know what happened with Clemson. I don't know why this game was close. But, again, LSU only beat Louisiana Tech, 28 to something? They were close too. I think a lot of people have it in their heads that LSU and Clemson are both top 10 teams, and I don't think they are. I think both of them were massively overhyped, and then the one that won obviously then just got even more overhyped. I just don't think neither of them are that good. I think we're now getting to the point where, and I think we talked about this when we did. I'm not sure if we did when we did the ACC or if we did when we did the SEC or one of the other preview shows. I can't remember, but we said I don't think either of these teams are particularly good. One of them's going to win this game. I said I thought LSU was just a better team than Clemson, but I didn't think either of them were particularly good. And I think now we're just going to start seeing them fading. I think I got to think that a lot of people just saw, okay, Troy almost beat Clemson. They're 6.5-point underdogs at home. Gotta take them. I think this could be in some cases a letdown spot. They maybe got up for Clemson and now they're okay, now we have to go play Memphis at home. I don't know. I'll take Memphis here. Clemson has a tough game this week as well with Georgia Tech. Hell, even LSU has a tough game this week with Florida. So I think just fading Troy is perfectly fine here. I don't think they're that good. I just think Clemson really dropped the ball there.
As they are wont to do. Sorry, Duck.
Yes.
Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I think one thing that really needs to be considered is the look-ahead spots are real. And LSU, after that big, thrilling win at Clemson and with hosting Florida on deck, there was just no reason for this team to go put their max effort into beating Louisiana Tech by 45. Look who Memphis plays next.
That's
the one they want. They
Or is that
host
Ole Miss?
Arkansas.
Okay.
That's the one they want. So
Yeah, that's
I don't think Troy. This isn't a down spot for Troy because this is a rival for Troy. Troy wants to beat these guys. I don't
Maybe.
know. I don't know. I'm not saying this is my absolute favorite play of the week, but the line movement is very telling. Troy is going to be a pretty feisty out here.
man. I just. All right, look, and I know it's not your favorite play, but geez, I should have put this in the I want to talk to segment. I want to talk to the guy that has enough faith in Jared Parker to move this line 3 points. How about that? I don't get it. That's why I brought it up. I was genuinely confused by the 6.5. Now the 3.5 is just really doubly confounding. All right, next one we move on to. I don't know if this is a barbell game or if this is more of the bell curve is flat. Okay, New Mexico.
We actually haven't. I don't think we told Duck about the barbell. So he wasn't on. We talked about that last week and this week.
Did you? So the barbell is basically instead of your typical bell curve of results around the point spread, it's the other way. Not going to land on the point spread. It's either going to be like a blowout or a tie game so that's the barbell.
I said that
I'm
for
not sure.
USF Florida 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And that turned out to be very correct.
So I'm not sure what we have here on New Mexico, other than it's a rebuilding Mountain West team. I think I know what I have on UCLA. It's a team that really doesn't like to tackle. It's a team that's trying to break the laws of physics when it comes to having your quarterback in for spring. I'm not sold on the head coach. That makes me like about 99% of UCLA football fans in that regard. I want to like New Mexico here because they're feisty. I like Jason Eck. He's a character. He's fun on the sideline, but that's a rebuild. Now, he did bring a decent amount of guys from his Idaho squad. I guess I can't punish them too much for giving up big numbers to a good, we'll say, Big Ten team in Michigan. I guess before the season, maybe this is how I'll just throw it to you, Duck. This line had to be closer to 20 if there was an early line, right?
Or even 30. Yeah, I think that this line would have been massive preseason. I didn't know if there was a look ahead, but this line would have been really massive. Now,
if you and I were making it, would be like 4 touchdowns, basically.
Yeah, UCLA just has so little to like and to get excited about. When they needed it most against UNLV to try to get back into that game and really start to save their season for all intents and purposes, they just couldn't do it against that porous UNLV defense that has given up yards and points to everybody, and you couldn't get a first down in the second and third quarters, and then you're in scramble mode at the very end, and you don't even need to be in desperation mode because there's time, and he just makes such an ill-advised throw. I've been so disappointed with what I've seen from UCLA, just inability to really effectively run the ball. The pass game has just looked jerky. 5 out of 5 red zone opportunities have resulted in scores, but only 2 touchdowns, and all 8 of the defensive red zone trips have resulted in touchdowns. They didn't belong on the same field as Utah. And when I looked at New Mexico, going into the Big House, they got down 14-0 early, and you could have folded the tent and waved the white flag and lost 56-0, and it would have been completely reasonable. No, they outscored them the rest of the way. They went in there and threw a huge punch against Michigan. It was 24-14 in the fourth quarter, and New Mexico had the ball. And it's, whoa, this game is, like, they're squeezing the ball hard still. This is a real game here. And you come home, you beat Idaho State by 10, whatever. But if this goes to 17, I'm absolutely playing New Mexico, and I won't think twice about it. I don't know if UCLA, if after this, they may not win another game the rest of the way. This team is really bad. And defensively, they don't have any attitude. They allow a ton of havoc offensively. They allow way too many negative plays. It's just such uninspiring football to me, and something I don't want to bet into. So I think for these guys, it's all about just trying to do everything you can to get the win. Forget trying to win a game with margin. It's just, can we win a game at all? So if I can get 17 with New Mexico, I'm waiting this one out on Friday night, but I'll absolutely be on New Mexico if we see 17s flash.
Yeah. Robert, let me ask you this. I guess, Robert, have you seen UCLA? Not that you would really do this to yourself, but have you taken upon yourself to watch one of their games this year?
I was watching some of the Utah game. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe if I'm going to make a path, just any kind of case for them or an excuse, it would be New Mexico guys are going to be easier to tackle than Utah guys, but there's just no want to. It's give me a case for UCLA, or are you just going to say you're not even going to bother?
This is another Mountain West team, right? Like, it's the same conference. So, okay, is it UNLV is probably among, I mean, at this point, based on what else has happened in the Mountain West, they're probably one of the better Mountain West teams as compared to Utah, New Mexico not being a good Mountain West team. Honestly, my model has us within a score. It has us within a touchdown. I think it has UCLA minus
Really?
4.5. Yeah. Again, it's super early. It's not perfect. It has some bugs into it, but I believe that. Like, legitimately, I'm not shocked by that number at all. Just straight up. And I think no one particularly is, right? I think this UCLA team has some problems. Clearly, Nico was not the answer to those problems. I think New Mexico gets up for this game and they say, hey, like, we can. The thing is, I think one of the reasons why it actually has that number is New Mexico was like a sneakily competitive against Michigan. Like, they only lost by, I think it was 20, I think it was 34 to 14 or something like that. That's only 20 points to a
34-17.
34-17. Even better. They only lost by 20 something, like a 15 something, like mid-teens. That's crazy considering the fact that Michigan is clearly among a top Big Ten team. Not obviously the top Big Ten team, but like a top 4, top 5 Big Ten team. You were competitive with them. You're a Mountain West team and a low Mountain West team to boot, right? So, yeah, give me 15.5. Give me even some money line on here. Honestly, if New Mexico won this game, would we be that shocked?
I think the mindset for New Mexico is absolutely that they show up ready to go, thinking they can win this game. Something else for UCLA that I don't like: 5 out of 24 third down conversions, which is bad. Just 2 out of 5 red zone trips have been touchdowns. 17 accepted penalties in 2 games against them. 160 penalty yards. You're not going to win football games doing that. You're just not going to.
Yeah, and you know what? I guess if there's a path here, just say New Mexico. Let's just not even say they're leading. If this is like a one-score game in the fourth quarter, even if it's a 10-point game, who do you think is going to win that fourth quarter? Deshaun Foster or Jason Eck? I've got all my money in the Jason Eck corner, and this is not a shot at Deshaun Foster. It's a shot at the idiots who thought it was a good idea to hire him, both inside the athletic department and at the publication. If there's any kind of coaching thing that's a difference here, that's a mismatch here, right, Duck? You know the FCS better than me, where Eck came from.
Yeah, I think Eck's a better coach situationally. Just turn on the footage from last. Now, Deshaun Foster had his guys playing hard last year when the season was over, and they didn't quit on him, and so there's something to commend there. But this team is just not getting any better, and they don't play cohesively as a unit. And just to, let's just say, buy the cheap Chinese product and slap a nice label on it and sell it for an expensive price. Nico, you paid $4 million for that? You just slapped a cheap label on something and you're selling it for an expensive price and it's not working. And so, I would have major concerns. In fact, I looked at this today when I was talking to somebody else. UCLA's win total at the beginning of the season was 5.5. Today, you can take over 2.5. They know.
Wow.
They know this team stinks. This team stinks.
Wow. That is awesome. The other thing, and Robert, we hit on this in the Monday night podcast too, briefly about UCLA attendance. I'm going to be really interested to see, if I'm a UCLA fan, there's not a lot of reason to go there, and if I'm a New Mexico fan, I can drive over. There could be enough New Mexico fans where it becomes disheartening for the home team. And I'm sure they'll be, if they're there, they will be much louder as well. We LA fans are not the loudest in the world. So, is this a late game too?
Yeah, 10:15
yes,
Eastern.
it's a late game.
Yep, and there you go. The locals do not like those at the Rose Bowl because even unless you're basically next door, out of that place is a long time.
Is this an honorary Pac-12 or dark game?
Yeah, definitely. Jason Eck has been in one of those. I believe that he was in the. No, that wasn't. That was like in the COVID season. So it was Idaho against somebody. I forget. That was when it was introduced to him. All right, so those are the games. We have a new segment here called Quacks, capital Q, capital A. This is where we ask Duck, see what we did there, ducks and quacks and all that stuff. So just random questions that don't really find a home anywhere, that we just want to use his knowledge that is far superior to that of Robert's in mind. So I have 2 questions for you, Duck. The Liberty run defense, there's, I guess, 3 scenarios that I can think of. They just didn't show up on Saturday because they gave up 300 yards to Jacksonville State. That's A. They just didn't show up, but they're going to be okay. B is like, all right, Liberty's just been on a downward trajectory since Robert's Ducks murdered them in a New Year's Six Bowl, and this is a continuing downward trajectory, and now it's manifesting with a horrible run defense. Or C, and I don't want us to influence the witness here, but please don't say it's this. It's just Jacksonville State actually have a decent run offense? Please no.
So I think that this is a multiple choice question that has multiple answers. I think that Jacksonville State's run offense is somewhat competent. I think it was extremely poor coaching by Jamie Chadwell to not stuff the box and dare Gavin Wimsatt to throw over you. He hasn't done it anywhere he's been. And you continually just play 5 and 6 man boxes, not even 7 man boxes. They were running some 3-3-5, they were running some 4-2-5, and it's like, you're not even going to bring in a full box. And they never pivoted defensively the entire game. They just never did anything different. My goodness, Jacksonville State won the game completing 6 passes for 52 yards. It's like you didn't even force him into his weakness. I don't understand why, if you know a guy can't hit the slider down and away, why are you not going to throw a slider down? When he chases it, you need to throw it. And it was poor coaching, poor drawing it up on the whiteboard, no pivoting in game. Major trouble for Liberty if they're going to continue to not do that. And again, I think Jacksonville State's run game is fairly decent, but teams should be able to negate that by loading the box with 8, playing 3 high, and saying, okay, Gavin, we're going to bring some blitz on you. We're going to run some run blitz and some stunts. Why don't you throw passes against us? Because he can't do it.
They should be eminently stoppable just by the quarterback position this year, right?
I would think so. I think Jacksonville State's performance against Central Florida looks a little better than maybe it should. That game was delayed by weather. There was a very sloppy field. There was a ton of rain early. That was the first Thursday night of the season. It was very sloppy. I'm not trying to make excuses for UCF because I think UCF is bad, but there was a ton of rain. It was very sloppy field, and the game was delayed for hours. And so it was just a goofy situation for both teams, but UCF is bad.
I just was laughing so hard because that's now the Liberty excuse. Maybe Jamie Chadwell needs to coach at Syracuse, where that's not going to be a problem. They don't have weather delays there.
I think that's what he needs to do.
Yeah. All right. Austin Peay.
Yeah.
They housed Middle Tennessee State. They actually gave Georgia a run for their money. And I don't know anything about this. This is generally why I'm asking you. It's kind of get some context for that to see what we can impute from that. But are they a good FCS team this year?
They are this year for sure. In priors, they had been middling, but they have completely overperformed expectations this season. Now, Georgia, nobody cares about the non-conference less than Georgia, and they don't have any sort of desire or they don't put any stock in covering these big spreads, which I think we're seeing them now severely under. They're 3.5 against Tennessee. Yeah. Are you kidding me? That front seven is going to eat Tennessee's offensive line alive. And what happens to Joey Aguilar when he faces pressure? He makes terrible decisions. He takes sacks. He throws turnover-worthy plays. You've got Georgia undervalued. Why? Because they didn't cover the number against Marshall, but they thoroughly dominated. And they were in a game for 3 quarters with Austin Peay. I mean, none of that matters. This is the team they're going to turn it on against. I don't know. I think Austin Peay is a lot better than expected. I think Georgia is a lot better than they're getting credit for now. My biggest play of the weekend is on Georgia against Tennessee. But, Austin Peay is a very formidable bunch, and unfortunately we don't have really any sort of additional opportunities to see them against FBS competition, but if you want to take an FCS line, grab the first number because they play FCS Pioneer Football League non-scholarship participant Morehead State this week. And if they're laying less than 35, take Austin Peay because they will destroy Morehead State.
Gotcha. And the other thing, too, about Austin Peay, can we maybe forgive that horrible Middle Tennessee State showing, or is that really what we have? I had some concerns about Middle because they were a half of a half team. Their defense stunk and they couldn't run the ball. Literally, their entire identity was a passing game, and then their best receiver now plays for Michigan State. Are they hopeless, or can we set aside that horrible Austin Peay result, or at least give it more favorable context, do you think?
Give it more favorable context. We did see a little bit more intestinal fortitude from Middle Tennessee when they played Wisconsin. I was pleasantly surprised that they were able to go toe-to-toe with them for a couple of quarters. Gives me hope that they can beat Nevada this weekend. But it was as bad of a performance. It was not fluky. It was a plain old-fashioned ass-whooping. It was so bad for Middle Tennessee at home. You have all off-season to try to start your season off on the right foot with Derek Mason, and that's what you roll out there. And I felt terrible for Nicholas Vattiato. He had no time. It was just terrible. So, yeah, Middle Tennessee could be in some major trouble. They've got a couple winnables coming up, so their season will be won or lost in the next 5 weeks, but man, it looked really bad and just so disappointing to see from the Blue Raiders, a team I was higher on than most.
Yeah, we all have one or two of those that kind of bite us every year. That goes with the territory.
But let's talk some Conference USA real quick. I mean, that league is now wide open.
Gosh.
I think everybody thought that Liberty was head and shoulders above everybody else. They had the most talent. They spent the most money in the NIL. And now that league is absolutely wide open. So I'd like to hear each of your takes because I made a play on a Conference USA future this morning where I bet real money on a team to win the league, and I'd like to know what you guys think before I tell you who I bet on.
Oh my gosh.
Go
ahead.
Yeah, I like Western Kentucky. I don't know what happened specifically with Toledo there, but outside of Western Kentucky, there's not many other teams in that league I would trust, I don't think. Definitely not Sam Houston. But yeah, I think that Western Kentucky's my play.
There's just a morass there.
Literally 6 other teams that could win it, or at least get there.
You know what? And maybe the way you framed it, maybe that's influenced it. My first inkling, as we said in our group text, was Western too, but I don't know if the value's there. If I'm going for value, I'm guessing this is where you're going too. Would it be the Panthers of FIU?
It's exactly what it was. Yeah, I took 10 to 1 on FIU. Absolutely, they destroyed their FCS. Their defense looked sharp. The Keon Jenkins was throwing dimes. And then go turn on the film if you can find it. I'm telling you right now, these guys went toe-to-toe with Penn State for an entire half. 13-0, and FIU went for it on 4th down in the red zone and left some points on the board, and it was 20-0 deep into the 4th quarter. It was absolutely competitive football. FIU has a new attitude. They play with intensity. They can completely win this league.
And to that point, I think all around that is, I like that coach's resume too. He might immediately be in the top third of that conference in terms of coaches. Yeah. Yeah,
and it's an interesting hire. He was the running backs coach at Duke, but he was an HBCU coach before that, and just really a guy that we've seen this now with a couple of different programs that really needed it. We've seen it with Central Michigan. Last year, they just took on this pathetic, apathetic nature of Jim McElwain, and it was just... And FIU took on this Mike McIntyre, just this blob of nothing. Ugh. Now we've got this coach that's connecting with his players. He's connecting in the community. There's an intensity. There's an urgency to win now. And this bunch is really buying into it, and I think it's good to see some of these coaches really start to have an immediate impact culturally with their players and turning around the apathetic nature of it. But look at the schedule, too. Every game on the road is winnable. And then you host Liberty, you host Jacksonville, who now may be a player. You get Delaware, Kennesaw, Missouri State, Middle Tennessee, who now looks to be a turd, Sam Houston State, who's a complete turd. Like, FIU could rack up a ton of wins here in Conference USA play.
That's a good point. And I should know this. Florida A&M, is that near Miami?
It's Tallahassee.
Oh, okay. It's way on the other side of the state. Okay. So it's not like he's got Miami connections. Although, here's an interesting question. Would an FCS team like FAMU go down to Miami and recruit? I don't even know how big a... Okay. So he's got experience in the area too then. Yeah. And we talk about when we did the smaller conference, the G5 conferences, especially like the lower three, the things that stuck out again and again was the rosters get picked over. And to that point, what becomes a lot more important is the coach. And you got a guy like this. I don't want to say that they overhired for a Conference USA. I want to say that they probably properly hired in a normal year, which is above everybody else since there's been so much coaching turnover in the G5 the last couple of years. So they got into it. And I forgot he was at Duke too. So it's not like this is his first exposure to FBS too, which is solid. Yeah, I like that. That's amazing how I picked up on that too.
10-1, I think. I don't know if there's any other better value in league play right now. There's just now it's so wide open. You can't say it's Liberty and everyone else is battling for one spot. Now everyone's battling for two spots to try to get into the game.
No, to go back to the earlier point, let me ask you this, Robert. You can't have your model do it, but basically, is that Liberty game at FIU?
Yeah.
Okay. What would you guess on that line, Robert? What would you make that line? Robert's opening up his book.
My model doesn't work that way specifically. It would take a while to run that, but I'll probably run that at some point. At this point, probably it'd be like a 6.5 against the classic Liberty 6.5. But yeah, I'd probably be betting FIU on that. Yeah, they were very competitive with Penn State.
Yeah, I was gonna say just about in that 6 to 7 range. Is that what you're thinking too, Duck?
Liberty minus 2.5.
Wow. Okay.
That's what it should be, but what are the books going to lay? There's no way they're going to lay a 2.5.
Oh, I'm sure they absolutely would because they would invite all that Liberty money that they could get.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. All right. Good discussion. Duck, good to see you again after a couple weeks off.
Hey, we're on island time. We got to spend 45 seconds here, and we got to talk about our favorite team on the island. How bad is Hawaii going to beat our friends from Portland State this weekend? Quick score. Let's just guess the score. Just for a 10-pack of Timbits and a double there from our friends up there in the GTA, the Greater Toronto area. Yeah. I'm gonna say it's 52 to 14.
52 to 14. Yeah, that's probably about right. I'd say, I don't know, 15, I'll go like 48. Maybe 48 to like 10. 48-10.
That backup was so bad after Alejado got hurt that, you know what, I'm going to keep it in the 30s. I'll do 38 to 9.
All right, we'll do the Timbits bet on that, and whoever loses gets to pay for the Timbits, but whoever wins still gets to watch Robert eat them because he's the only one in Canada.
That sounds good.
Oh, yeah, you can't like mail them to California. Yeah. Partly because of tariffs too, but
Jesus, oh man, don't get me started. Yep. All right, guys, that was really good. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks to everyone for listening in, too. We appreciate the loyal
Yeah.
listenership, and the channel's growing. We've got the fresh logo, just gaining a lot of traction here. We've got some good insight. Anyone listening in, thanks for the loyalty.
And to that point, these are our Twitter or X, depending on what you prefer, names or whatever. Jesus, I'm getting old. I can't speak on behalf of these two, but reach out to me. I love the engagement. Anybody who has especially a different opinion, that's what I love. I like different opinions. That's what it's all about. Live and learn. All right, guys. Well done. Another week in the books. We will be in touch over the weekend, and thank you all for listening and watching, and good luck this weekend, and we will talk to you on Monday. Until then, bye-bye.